Hello Golden Jobbers! Welcome once again to my channel. This is Sir Job and welcome to Sir Job TV. So for this morning, i-discuss ko po sa inyo ang week 1 or the MELC 1 sa ngayong bago nating system because of this pandemic na bago po. Before, meron tayong curriculum guide in UCSP, but now we have what we so-called most essential learning competency na ipa-follow po natin in discussing the topic. So welcome to the subject understanding culture, society, and politics. But before ko pong i-discuss ang mga topics or the MELC 1 of UCSP, allow me first to read to you the MELCs or the most essential learning competencies under the subject UCSP. So in week 1, we will have to discuss the nature, goals, perspective, of anthropology, sociology, and political science. Week 2, we have to analyze the concept, aspects, and changes of culture and society. Week 3, we have to explain the importance of cultural relativism in attaining cultural understanding. Week 4, we have to analyze the significance of cultural, social, political, and economic symbols and practices. Week 5, we have to explain the context, content, processes, and consequences of socialization. Week 6, we have to analyze the forms and functions of social organizations. Week number 7, we have to explain the forms and functions of state and non-state institutions. Week 8, we have to examine the functions and importance of education in society. Week 9, we have to examine the concept, characteristics, and forms of stratification systems using sociological perspectives. Week 10, we have to explain government programs and initiative in addressing social inequalities, example, local, national, and global. Week 11, we have to suggest ways to address social inequalities, local, national, and global. Week number 12, we have to examine the human responses to emerging challenges in contemporary societies. So these are the most essential learning competencies or the MELC in the subject understanding culture, society, and politics. So for this morning, let's focus our discussion on week number 1, which is to discuss the nature, goals, perspectives of sociology, anthropology, and political science. So that is basically the focus of our discussion for this morning. So let's move now to the content standard for our topic for this morning. The learners demonstrate an understanding of, first, human cultural variation, social differences, social change, and political identities. 2, the significance of understanding or studying culture, society, and politics. Number 3, the rationality of studying or for studying anthropology, sociology, and political science. Let's go for the performance standards. The learners, number 1, acknowledge human cultural variation, social differences, social change, and political identities. Number 2, adopt an open, critical attitude to different social, political, and cultural phenomena through observation and reflection. Number 3, appreciates the value of disciplines of anthropology, sociology, and political science as social sciences. Okay, so let's go back again. What's our topic? What's really the description of our subject? So this is the subject understanding culture, society, and politics. So accordingly, when we speak of understanding culture, society, and politics, these are all concepts. So concepts lang po ito. Culture, society, and politics are just concepts. What does it mean when we speak of concepts? Pag sinabi natin concept, that is not fixed. Hindi po siya fixed. Hindi po siya universal. Meaning to say, nagva-vary po ang implication or implementation for this particular terms or concept in different parts of the globe. That is why ginawa or dinesign ang subject na ito para mas maintindihan po natin ang different culture, ang different perspective, ang different ways of government, how to run their own government in different places in order for them na magkaroon po tayo ng peace and unification with different parts of the globe with the understanding that we have to get from this subject in the very first place. So that is really the nature of this subject. They exist in the realm of ideas and thoughts. That's the beauty. As such, they cannot be seen or touched, and yet the way we see experience our lives and collective lives as social beings. Okay? Concepts are created and have been used to have firm grip of phenomenon. So that's the beauty. As I talked to you a while ago, it differs from one place to another, from one community to another, from one group to another. Nagvary po ang tatlong element na ito. Yung culture, society, and the politics. Okay. The learners demonstrate, this is our content standard number 1. The learners demonstrate an understanding of the first, human cultural variation, social differences, social change, and political identities. So, take note, may 4 po tayong element dito. Human cultural variation, social differences, social change, and political identity. So, isa-isahin po natin ang pag-discuss nila sa kanila. Okay, number 1, the human cultural variation. Human cultural variation, it refers to the differences in social behavior that different cultures exhibit around the world. What may be considered good etiquette in one culture may be considered bad etiquette in another culture. So basically, when we speak of human cultural variation, it has something to do with or connection with the term cultural relativism. Meaning to say, may mga practices na para sa iyo tama, para sa grupong ito tama, but if you have to apply that particular practices to other group of people, nagiging mali po ang practices na yan. So that is basically the concept of human cultural variation. I'll give you one example because talking about human cultural variation, pinaka famous talaga na pwede natin gamitin example is ang concept ng religion. Number 1 is the concept of religion. Number 2 is the concept of ethnicity. Number 3 is the concept of nationality. So talking about religion, for example, i-compare natin yung Roman Catholicism at saka yung practices ng Islam, for instance. Diba, it's attached to their culture or part of their culture, for example, sa kanilang sa marriage na situation or sa concept nila ng pag-aasawa. In the concept of Islam, okay, allowed po silang mag-marry ng 4. That is the concept of the polygamy. Okay, kasi polygamous po ang mga Muslims, so they can marry as maximum of 4 wives. That is the concept of polygamy. So basically, kung i-apply po natin yan in the concept of the Christian community, nagiging mali po siya. Okay, because ang sa Roman Catholicism po kailangan isang husband and isang wife, yun po ang structure ng isang family. But in the Muslim community, again, if you have to compare, pwede pong magkaroon ng 4 na asawa ang isang lalaki. So that is basically one of the example ng human cultural variation. Tama para sa iyo, but if you are going to apply in another culture, nagiging mali po ang application ng concept na yan doon mismo sa kanilang culture. So in ethnicity, they also have their practices. May mga practices din po ang iba't ibang grupo, nagva-vary din po siya. Tama para sa ganitong group, pero mali po siya sa ganitong mga grupo. In different groups, mga indigenous people na nandito po sa ating bansa. And then in terms of nationality, we also have our ways or we also have our laws na dito po apply dito sa ating country lang. Pagpunta mo sa ibang bansa, hindi po siya applicable. So that's one way of seeing na nagva-vary po. Hindi po siya fixed. Okay, when we speak of human cultural variation. So cultural variation between cultures. If human cultures modify natural environment, it is also true that natural environment initially shaped, and still shapes, to some extent, the culture of society. Second, the social differences, it's part of our content standard. The social differences, when we define social differences, the differences among individuals on the basis of social characteristics and qualities. Social differences are the complex differences that includes, remember this one, that includes class, role, culture, age, ability, sex, and etc. Social differences can create discrimination among individuals on the basis of their social characteristics. So going back to human cultural variation, kanina diniscuss ko sa inyo, grupo po siya. Okay, when we speak of human cultural variations, we are actually observing or evaluating a group of people in a kind of society, tinitingnan natin yung movement nila. But dito sa social differences, ang tinitingnan natin is the individual differences or the individual uniqueness of a certain person. Okay? So, dito papasok yung mga individual preferences of a certain person. So talking about social differences, the best example that we can use is about the gender. Because when we define gender, okay, it is the socially constructed characteristics of being male and female, serve as guide on how males and females think and act about themselves. So example, when we speak of gender, we have the LGBTQI or the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, and intersex. So that is socially constructed characteristics. Okay? But when we speak of sex, that is the two reproductive organs ng tao. Okay? The male and the female. Period. Wala na pong question. But when we speak of gender, because it is socially constructed characteristics, nagva-vary po siya. Depende sa preference ng isang tao. That is why we have social differences or tinitingnan natin dito kung ano ang preference ng isang tao towards that particular situation. Okay? I hope you get my point. So that's part. Okay? So let's move now to number 3. We have the social change. When we speak of social change, it is used to indicate the changes that take place in human interactions and interrelation. It is defined as behavior or social organizations or a value system. So the keywords here would be the interactions or take place in human interaction and interrelation. So, nagbabago. Like for example, ang isang group of people may dumating na dayuhan in that particular place. Like for example, there is an American na nakastay dyan sa place na yan. So, nagbabago po ang konsepto ng kultura because may humalo po na ibang nationality, for example, na kung saan mag-share po siya ng culture, kung saan po siya nanggaling. So, social change, meaning to say, nag-upgrade po ang culture, nag-upgrade po ang practices, nagbabago po even the physical appearance of a certain person, nagkakaroon po ng evolution as we go along with the interactions and interrelations with different people in the society. So that's basically the concept of the social change. These are political arguments that focus upon the interests and perspectives of groups with which people identify. Okay? Identity politics includes the way in which people may be shaped by the aspects of their culture, of their identity through loosely correlated social organization. Example include social organization based on race, class, or religion, gender, identity, ethnicity, ideology, rationality, sexual orientation, culture, and language. So now let us proceed to the content standard number 2, which is the significance of studying culture, society, and politics. The social as driver of interaction. So let us consider ourselves as a driver of interaction. Okay? What are the things that we need to do? What are the things that we need to consider as a driver of interaction? Because whether we like it or not, it is really possible, or it is really imperative na we know how to socialize with each other, and hindi po tayo magiging isang total person if we have no proper exposure to different people. So very important po na we know how to play the concept of socialization. So basically, the study can be accomplished in 3 different ways. Okay, the first thing that you need to do pag nagkaroon po ng socialization, for example, pumunta ka ng isang place and you need to socialize with different people, the first thing that you need to do is by mapping the social forces impinging on social actors as their lives intersect in society. So basically, the keyword here would be by mapping social forces. Okay, kailangan malaman mo, kailangan ma-discover mo, kailangan maintindihan mo anong uri ang mga taong nandito. Like for example, gawin ko example yung pagpunta ko ng MSU last 2010, napakahirap po because nasanay ako sa ganitong buhay dito sa Christian world, and then pumasok ako sa community ng mga Muslims. So that's basically one thing that I need to do. By mapping the social forces impinging the social actors as their life intersect in the society. Meaning to say, you should know the concept, you should know their lives, you should know everything about their lives, the nature of their daily lives. Kailangan maintindihan mo, kailangan ma-discover mo, kailangan malaman mo in order for you to understand also kung ano yung gagawin mo for yourself as the interaction continues. Okay, ganun po siya. So the second one would be since nalaman mo na or na-define mo na ang social forces, now let's proceed to the second step, which is by rehearsing the structures and components of cultural practices. Since na-discover mo na, nalaman mo na, naintindihan mo na, nakapag-explore ka na sa kanilang practices, the next thing that you need to do is to rehearse. Meaning to say, you have to adopt and you have to follow the policy. You have to respect everything that they have to do in their daily lives. Okay? Not necessarily na kailangan mag-follow ka rin ng Islam, for example, going back to our example, not necessarily. But you have to respect, meaning to say, you have to observe kung ano yung ginagawa nila sa kanilang pang-araw-araw na buhay. That's basically one thing that you need to do. You have to rehearse the structures and components of cultural practices and traditions. Number 3 is by exposing asymmetrical power distributions among members of social communities and organization. By exposing asymmetrical, power distributions among members of social communities and organization. So, when we speak of asymmetrical power, it means to say that not the same or not equal, okay? So, you have to appreciate the differences of your culture from their culture. That's basically one thing that you have to do. Okay? Na-discover mo na on the first step, na-explore mo na sa ating, going back to our first step, na-discover mo na, na-explore mo na. Okay, na-learn mo na kung ano yung kanilang daily practices. Now, the next step would be, i-rehearse mo, i-practice mo ang kanilang mga traditions. Ano yung mga ginagawa nila sa pang-araw-araw, something like that. So, the third one now is to appreciate or to embrace holistically kung ano yung talagang ginagawa nila sa kanilang daily lives. That's the proper way. Pag nagkaroon ka ng interaction or as a social driver sa isang interaction, you really have to follow this particular steps in order for you to have a smooth sailing while you are staying in that particular situation. Okay, so let us define now the concept of anthropology, kasi tatlo po ang pinaka-element po talaga when we are studying understanding culture, society, and politics. So the first one is anthropology. When we speak of anthropology, is the study of various human culture in the world now and throughout history. Study the origin of humans, how we have changed over the years, and how we relate to each other, both within our own culture and with people from other culture. Okay, let's go back. Is the study of various human culture in the world now and throughout history. So, ang focus po talaga talking about anthropology is yung mga cultures from different people noong unang panahon, okay, and then relating it now to the present time, okay? So that's basically one thing. Etymologically, anthropology comes from the Greek words anthropos, meaning to say man, and logos meaning to say study. Okay, so anthropology is the branch of knowledge which deals with the scientific study of man, his works, body, behavior, and values within a specific time and space. Anthropology answers the questions: who are you? Okay? Second, what makes you? Third, what is your place in this world? 4. How and why men have changed. 5. How and why society across culture and time have different customary ideas and practices. So anthropology means works, body, behavior, and values. Discover when, where, and why appeared on earth. Why there are variations in physical features, ancient customs and practices. So in anthropology, man is the focal point and anthropological investigation and analysis, regardless of color, affiliation, belief, and technology. Anthropology studies man, works, and achievements, arts, architecture, technology, sculpture, literature, and music. So basically, when we speak of culture, or I mean, when we speak of anthropology, it usually attaches to the concept of culture. Culture is essential for reaching about our past. Studying culture allows us to have knowledge of our own lifeblood tradition, the things that made us who we are today, to know how valuable it is to have one and to preserve its existence. Culture is also identity, the difference between us and other people from other countries. So basically, when we speak of anthropology, the best thing that we can connect with it is the word culture. Remember that culture varies from one places to another. It is our identity, it is our lifestyle, it is the kind of thing that develops us of who we are as a person. So you will be identified by the kind of person or by the kind of culture you are living or by the kind of culture you are applying within yourself. So basically, that's the concept. So now let's proceed to the next one. We have the sociology. So when we speak of sociology, it's the scientific study of society. The perspective highlights the eternal or the external influences that facilitate or constrain human action. So this is from Latin word socius, meaning to say associate or companion, and Greek word logos, meaning to say the study of. The term sociology was coined by Auguste Comte, the French philosopher from 798 to 1857. Okay, scientific study of patterns of human interaction that deals with the study of group life. According to George Simmel, a German sociologist, individually and social forms of 1908, sabi po ni George Simmel, society exists where a number of individual interaction which arises on the basis of certain drives or for the sake of certain purposes. So society exists, nagkakaroon po ng isang society because people gathered together from that place kasi meron silang ginagawa. Like for example, there is trading, there is business on that particular place, or doon mismo kumukuha ang tao ng kanilang basic needs for survival. So nagkakaroon ng what? Nagkakaroon ng isang society because nagkakaroon ng maraming tao, nagagather ang isang group, naggather sa isang area ang group of people or certain group of people. Thus, sociology is the study of the relationships among people, body of knowledge of structures, utilizes scientific method, investigates the social world, inquires how groups are, determines how groups affect the individual and vice versa. Sociology is the human interactions, social relations, story of people, ways toward each other, social behavior, and not of the individual changes taking place within society. So, There are many things that are to be studied in a society. Ang dami pong focus, ang dami pong kailangang pag-aralan, ang dami pong mga angle na kailangan i-focus when we speak of sociology, when we speak of society. But the most important is the significance of people. So pinaka-highlight po talaga when we speak of sociology, when we speak of society, is the importance of the existence of people within that particular community, for example. How they live, how they interact, how they deal with their daily lives. That's basically the focus of sociology, or in studying different kinds of community or a society. Knowing how the society functions as a whole and as a part of our lives help us come up with a better way of improving it or sustaining its brilliance. The country's well-being can also be seen in its societies. Okay, so now let's proceed to political science. Let's define first political science. Is the study of, or is a systematic study of the state and the government, from the Greek word polis, which means city-state, and sire means to know. It deals with systems of government and the analysis of political science or political activities and political behavior. It is a social science regarding on the practice and theory of politics, the analysis of the political systems, and the study of political behavior. So in politics, it is best to be a wise citizen. Basically, it is best to be a wise citizen in a world full of deceptions and empty promises. This is referring to the politicians, or when it comes to the election campaign, for example. Very important that citizens should be a wise voter or during the election. Kasi yun po ang pinili nating maglingkod for our country, for our locality, or whatever. So very important na maging wise po tayo. That's one thing that you will learn from this subject. We are in a democratic country, correct? The people has all the power to make a country rise from the ground. We are democratic Philippines. We are a democratic country. I hope that we could be able to exercise that particular power, that we have the power to choose who's to be the leader of our country, who deserve to be a certain officials of our country, sino ang mamumuno sa ating bansa. But definitely, it depends upon how wise we are in choosing them and how wise we are in selecting them during the election. Okay. But if someone isn't aware of how politics work or how it should work, leaves people's ignorance uncured. So we really need to know the concept of this particular thing in terms of the political system, how to run a government. It's basically one thing that we need to know in order for us, okay, to cure our ignorance. Kasi as a Filipino citizen, or as a citizen of a country, it's very important for us, okay, to know the policies, the rules, the regulations. In fact, in the Constitution of 1987, it's very important that we are aware for the Article 3 Bill of Rights. That's karapatang pangtao na kailangan nating maintindihan at malaman, because we have several rights. That's Section 1 to 22, and you should know that as a citizen of this country. Okay, knowing this is important, for we need to be wise on which we want to lead us. So very important po na maging wise citizen tayo, maging wise voter po tayo for the progress and for the development of our country, Philippines. Now, let's go to the third content standard. The rationale for studying anthropology, political science, and sociology. So the rationale of studying anthropology, political science, and sociology. Question number 1. What is the rationale of studying anthropology? By looking at other culture and societies, anthropologists are able to reflect on various ways of being a human. By focusing those things, no, anthropologists are able to reflect on various ways of being a human. Because if you have to study different cultures in different parts of the globe, for example, then you could be able also to appreciate different practices, how they live, how they work, how they do their daily living, how they survive in a certain situation. Ano yung mga practices, ano yung mga general mga values ng isang group of people, for example. So you will learn something. Okay, you will reflect on various ways of being a human. Thus, anthropology teaches respect for ways of life Okay, again, thus anthropology teaches respect for other ways of life. Okay, so basically that's one thing na may tuturo ng anthropology sa'yo because now you know na ganito ang buhay nila, then you start also to appreciate that particular culture and you have to respect also with that particular practices. Hindi ka mandidiri, hindi ka magiging masashock or whatsoever. You will not discriminate them because after all, na-learn mo or naintindihan mo na, that's normal to them and that's their practices. While using a variety of cross-cultural human behavior as a mirror from which we can reflect one things we do in our own culture. Second question to be answered, what is the rationality of studying sociology? By emphasizing the use of scientific evidence to investigate, quantify, and interpret phenomena that occur in the social world, sociology reinforces the primary principles of scientific inquiry and relies on observation, logic, data, and analysis, and presents opportunities to develop skills and tools that are useful in the acquisition of knowledge. A sociological perspective underscores the importance of examining society with a critical eye of questioning assumptions, stereotypes, and generalizations that underlie conventional social interactions and beliefs about one's world. So let's go back. A sociological perspective underscores the importance of examining what? Examining society with a critical eye. So in relation to anthropology now, we end up appreciating different cultures because we are also indulged or exposed to different kinds of society by learning this particular subject as we go on with our discussion here. Given the increasing importance of developing stronger numeracy and literacy skills for college attendance and persistence, sociology can serve as a way of extending and deepening the skills in high school and beginning undergraduate students. Let's go to the question number 3. Why is it important to study political science? Political science is fundamental to understanding your rights and responsibilities as a citizen and to understanding international politics and law. These courses will introduce you to political concepts, political behavior, policy issues, and structures of government within society and among nations. So that ends our discussion for the MELC number 1, which is to discuss the nature, goals, and perspectives in of anthropology, sociology, and political science. So I hope that you learned something from this video and I hope that you will share this video to your friends and to any students na nangailangan po ng video na ito. And sana po, through this particular initiative, makakatulong po ako sa lahat ng mga learners in UCSP. Asahan niyo po that Sir Job TV will continue to upload videos about the discussions of the terminologies and things about understanding culture, society, and politics. Good morning once again, and let's enjoy learning in this new normal. Bye-bye!